Hello and welcome to another Alatreon Overexplained video. Today we're doing Fire Switch Axe against Ice Alatreon, Dawn of the Death Star quest. Gear I'll be using is displayed on screen. Hide my camera so you can see everything. Here are the skills. And we got some notes to start, to go through here real quick. If you've seen my previous Switch Axe Alatreon videos, the notes should be pretty much the same. We'll start off with equipment and gear. We want to use some points of evade extender is very useful. Any weapon that has hops like Lance and Switch Axe, I find evade extender very helpful. In terms of weapons, the Safi axes are good enough for element. I think you'll need something like 300, 400 element total to topple if you're playing really well. But the worse you are at the fight, the more element you want. In multiplayer, I prefer to use the Kyar axes. In multiplayer, in solo, I can use the Safi stuff. Safi axes will deal more damage overall because of the differences in files, right? With Switch Axe, there are power element files and regular power files. Right? One has element in the word and one doesn't. So Safi Axe has a power file, as you can see over here, whereas something like the Frost Fang has a power element file. Or maybe something like a Kyar also has power element. So when it's an element file, it does more elemental damage in sword mode. And when it's a power, just a plain power file, it does more raw damage in sword mode. So this also affects your ability to topple Alatreon. So again, the worse you are at the fight, the more element you want. Switching to a power element axe can help you get topples. If you're using Safi Axe, it generally has lower element. And because it has lower base element, having 6 points in fire or ice attack is not necessarily that beneficial because of the elemental cap. You're not gaining a lot for the armor skills. In terms of armor, again, this guide is more for improving your times or improving your ability at the fight, not necessarily for complete beginners. So if you have the Rime Guard Gamma for Frostcraft, or you can use Fatalis. Frostcraft favors the axe playstyle more. I use Fatalis Mix just for simplicity, and this is more of a personal playstyle thing. I use Tool Specialist with Rocksteady and Temporal Mantles, but it's not really optimal for damage output. You wouldn't really be using Tool Specialist and Temporal Mantle for optimal damage output. You'd be using like an Evasion Mantle and other skills. The Alatreon gloves themselves, as you saw when I was showing my equipment, are very useful for any set that wants power prolonger. Very potent gloves. And then just regarding the armor skill focus. Focus isn't really needed, per se, but I like to use lots of sword strikes, and when you use lots of sword strikes, it does make a difference. Focus does not matter that much for power element axes, but it does matter for regular power axes, such as the Safi one. Lets you charge up your amp meter much quicker. And it increases the tick rate for the sword meter gauge, allowing you to use more sword attacks. Again, not a super essential skill. You can play without it, you just be using a lot more axe hits and more sweeps. For playstyle during the fight, we're going to be using lots of short sword combos. We'll do like an overhead slash into a double slash, and then we'll wait to see what Alatreon's doing, which will allow us to hop or roll if need be. Sometimes we'll also use one or two wild swings, I very, very rarely will do the full 3 wild swing combo into the heavy slam. Very rarely will I do that. We'll usually do 1 or 2 into an overhead slash just during a short opening, or if we need to reposition, we might use the fade slash. That's the backwards axe attack to reposition. Morph sweep, particularly the third hit, which is the big one, is very good on openings, especially during the phase change from ice to dragon, or from fire to dragon, depending on what you have. Or just in general, when your sword gauge is low, you can morph sweep his arms or his head for some good damage. For ZSD opportunities, if you're looking for them, these probably aren't all of them, but the main ones I look for would be like the Ice Fog Breath, the beginning of flight, or during flight you can ZSD his rear legs. 3-ring explosion, sometimes, not always, but if you're on like the second ring, you can wait for his head to come down and you can clutch claw his head after the first ring has exploded, and you can use the grapple from that to avoid the explosion on the second ring, and then you can ZSD his face. It's kind of tricky to do. I don't do it that often. Use it when he's getting up at the end of elemental topples. There's a few other situations you can ZSD him in. But it's important to note for his lightning attacks, if you've already started ZSD when he goes to do lightning, you take no damage. If he starts lightning before you start ZSD, you will take damage and you'll get knocked off. So if you see he's doing lightning and you're already attacking his head, don't panic, just continue. You'll be fine. With Rocksteady. Rocksteady is very dangerous, grappling his face during flight. If you grapple his face during flight, there are several attacks that do really high damage, and there are like 1 or 2 that actually just full to zero you instantly. Those are the icicle based ones, where he shoots out multiple icicles. Those will literally kill you from full. Unless of course you're playing with like Divine Blessing, but I don't play with Divine Blessing. So I guess you could maybe try that. When we do get an element topple, we're just going to be mainly using sword attacks. It's just going to be overhead slash, double slash 3 times into a ZSD. If we're really close to him when the topple starts, we can do an extra 1 or 2 sword hits. And then throughout the fight, we'll be alternating frequently between sword and axe. Every time you switch from sword to axe, and only in that order. Every time you switch from sword to axe, you gain a little bit of sword meter. So you can use that to charge. In multiplayer, obviously you want to stack on allies for extra file bursts during amped sword mode. And don't be afraid of hitting the arms. Arms take less raw damage, but they take more element. And as a result, when you have a really high element weapon like a Kjar axe, it's okay to hit the arms. Because of the extra elemental damage will make it'll still be less, but it'll make it closer to head damage. The discrepancy on head damage with low element weapons will be more noticeable. Then we have our standard advice. This applies for every weapon against Alatreon. Always keep Alatreon on your screen. If he flies away, you get hit, you need to look at him before you do anything. You might want to stay on the ground to avoid some damage. You might want to avoid his next attack if in case you're trying to heal. Right? Don't panic, see what he's doing. Wait until it's safe before you do anything. Don't just try and risk it. We're going to use lots of evade window. We're going to try and get high HP. Since we're using Fatalis, we have 200. We'll time our attacks and combos when Alatreon's attacks and combos end. This might require you to pause inputs or literally do nothing for half a second, and that will give you the opportunity to avoid damage. We're going to use Blight Resistance 2 on our gear as well. The combination of Blight Resistance 2 with Coalescence, along with the Feline Groomer skill, is very good. Lets us remove Dragon Blight very quickly in the case that we do get hit. And it allows us to roll off of like Ice Blight, Fire Blight, all that stuff gets removed very, very quickly with those that combination, and then Coalescence turns that into extra damage. And like normal, we'll be using Rocksteady Mantle at the start to spin him and launch him into the rocks. We'll hit his face and arms because we're using a melee weapon. And during flight, we can flash or crash him if he's not enraged. Otherwise, we'll smoke him down with a smoke bomb. Since we're playing Switch Axe and we can ZSD his feet, it's not as important to smoke him down and to get him to land quickly. But we can if we choose to do so. And since we're playing Ice Alatreon, Ice Alatreon has a lot more big openings than Fire. Ice Alatreon will use the standing fog breath quite often during the fight, so I will probably be using ZSD quite frequently. Alatreon uses different attacks depending... Sorry. The frequency at which Alatreon uses certain attacks changes based on whether he's fire or ice. If he's ice, he'll use more ice-based attacks. He can still use fire, so don't confuse that. He can still use basically all of his attacks. It's just how often will he use them. And so because he uses the ice ones frequently, he has lots of openings. So like usual, drop down, 2 spins, launch him, and I just checked to make sure that I had Feline Groomer on, because I couldn't remember if I ate. Gonna tenderize the head and arms. I hit the arms quite frequently. You can see that we only have 420 Blaze It element. And there's an instance of pausing our inputs. We're not amped with our sword, so there's no point in going for a ZSD here. So I'm just going to do a sword combo. Pause our input. And we pause our input to dodge. And here we get a ZSD chance. As long as you are not on the ground when he's using this ice breath, you will not take damage. So you clutch claw him anywhere on his body instantly, you'll be fine. Pause our input. He's using another ice breath, so we can clutch claw his face. Your other option for this ice breath is to just plan a morph sweep or a sword combo when he lands. We are unfortunately too far to clutch claw him. And there's our Fade Slash to reposition. Do a sword hit. I notice he's using lightning, so I'm just going to morph sweep his arm. Staggered. So we got hit, but we're going to see what he's doing. And it's okay that we got hit, because again, we have that Coalescence Feline Groomer. I'm going to roll where that lightning starts, and then I'm going to do a morph sweep combo in his face. Pause our inputs. Get our double slash in. So he's flying. He does that inhale to start his flight. That's an excellent time to grapple his face. And we're gonna smoke him here. I don't have slinger ammo. Normally I would shoot him with some slinger ammo. I should have grabbed some first. It takes him a long time to land if you don't have slinger ammo. And when you come out of the smoke, he almost always roars. So again, we're going to stand right where that first line of lightning spawned. The ice cube prevented me from setting up my combo properly. But normally with the sheets of lightning, you would stand right where that first line spawns, and that's where you would morph sweep. Watch his front legs. For any of the dragon aura explosions, you watch his front legs, and when they touch the ground, you roll after. We're going to tenderize his head with this ice breath. He's not enraged, so I'm going to pick up some slinger ammo. Again, watch his front legs. We're not amped with our sword either. We mistimed our roll. But again, here, as long as we're not on the ground, we don't take damage. And I'm going to pay attention to what he does, because I might need to end my ZSD early. The horn break meant I didn't have to. But depending on what attack he was using, I could have ended my ZSD early to prevent damage. I'm going to use this as a chance to rebuff. When he changes to Dragon Phase is a really good time to rebuff your Might Seed and Might Powder. Demon Powder. I'm going to smoke him and call my Palico over. Okay, so my Palico... What happened there? My Palico is using that Meowcano thing, and that was dealt damage to him, which caused him to land. I'm gonna, again, aim to stand where that first line of lightning spawns. And that's where we're gonna set up for our combo, because his head pushes forward. With this lightning, I'm gonna stand sort of 45 degrees to him and do a morph sweep to his face. Pause our input so we can dodge. He's doing an ice breath so I can clutch claw his face. I could alternatively have used that chance to tenderize his arms. You have to watch the ice crystal. I'm gonna do a overhead slash. Here we're gonna roll it into the middle, and we can do a morph sweep on his face, and we got the topple. It was a bit unfortunate timing, because the morph sweep kept me locked in animation. Because we were far away, we're only gonna do our sword combo, triple, into ZSD. We have just enough time to do it 3 times if we're far away or otherwise stuck in animation. We can put our Rocksteady on. Alright, he's using Eschaton. We're gonna do some damage here. We could ZSD his face during this Eschaton, but I don't feel like it. We're gonna watch where he's landing and set up morph sweep on the land. And then, as you may have noticed, the morph sweep attacks kind of hit behind you a little bit. So you can be a little bit generous with your positioning since they do hit behind you. Take a ZSD on the Claggers as well. We do want to tenderize him, but we can't tenderize on the lightning. Pause our inputs to avoid attacks. I actually think he's close to dying, so I'm not too worried about tenderizing right now, actually. Again, the morph sweep attacks hit kind of behind you, so you can be a little bit far forward and still land your main hits. And we're done. With a couple of sword hits very quickly. I hope you get some value out of that. Once again, this is the skill build. Turn the camera off real quick. Hope that was helpful or instructive. Hope that lets you improve your runs a little bit. And again, we didn't have that much element. We only had 420 elements. QR axes can get like 880 or something, 900. Something like that. So there's lots of room for more elemental damage if you want to improve. If you want to aim for that. Alright, thanks for watching. Hope that was instructive. Best of luck in your own runs. Take care and see you in the next video. Bye for now.